is Tom Grossi, and you're watching the PackReact podcast. Let's go.
That's all they give him? That's all they give him?
Hello, everybody. Welcome to PackReacts. I'm your host, Jeremy Hadley, along with my other host, Mike Arvonio, and I'm thrilled to welcome 5Point known for clickbait sports stadiums, rock bottom moments of when your team is not doing so good, and worst seasons for every NFL team, ladies and gentlemen, who has over 400,000 subscribers and has over 188 million total views on his channel. So, hey, welcome, 5Points. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Appreciate it. You can call me Adam, by the way. That's my my given name. Or Five. You can shorten it if you like. It doesn't matter.
Sweet. Yeah, so appreciate you coming on, Adam. What we always like to do first when we have guests come on, like when we've had Tom and Tree come on, we always like to ask about how they became a fan of their team. So since you're a Giants fan, how did you become a Giants fan?
Yeah, it's actually kind of convoluted. When I was 10, I became a Met fan at the behest of my father. He was like, look, you can like any team you want, but I like the Mets. And he's like, they're pretty good. They finished second place last year. So it was 1986. And then the Mets go out and win the World Series. And I'm like, oh, this is great. I just pick a team and they win the World Series. And my dad wasn't really a football fan. And I was like, well, the Mets are blue. I see the Giants, they're blue. Let me check out this Giant team. And then I saw Lawrence Taylor play, and that was it for me. I was like, this guy is a menace out there. What do they feed him? And then the Giants go and win the Super Bowl. And the first year I become a Giant fan in 1987, I'm just like, oh, this is easy, right? You just become a fan of a team and they win the championship. And I had no idea that the Mets would not win another one. The Giants have been good to me. Thank God I didn't pick the Jets. But yeah, as soon as I saw Lawrence Taylor play, that was it, man. He was something else. And then I didn't play football growing up. I just kind of learned the intricacies of the game by watching it on Sundays. My dad really wasn't into football at all. So, yeah, but I fell in love with the game. I was like, wow, they're allowed to hit each other. That's so cool. Like they can inflict bodily harm on each other. I was like, that looks fun, and it's very fun to watch. So that's how it happened. And then I've been a diehard since 1987.
That's great. Are you from New York, the New York area originally? Did you grow up in New York area?
My dad is from East Rutherford. So
Got it.
I was like, oh, so you're where the Giants play, but he was a Brooklyn Dodgers fan. And then the Brooklyn Dodgers obviously moved to LA. And then he was like, okay, well, who's my local team now? And then the Mets came in and he kind of backed the wrong horse there, but that's how it goes, but yeah, my dad's from New York. And then I've just always, I was like, all right, well, if I like the Mets, if my dad has that connection to the city, then all these other teams must be all right. Little did I know that the Knicks would be as bad as they've been. The Rangers were all right. I started getting into the Rangers in the early 90s, and they won a Stanley Cup. So, but also them haven't won shit. Sorry, can I cuss? Is it all right if I?
Yeah,
of course.
Okay, they haven't won shit since 1994. And now I'm still waiting for them, and it's probably not going to be this year. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. No, I'm joining you from New York City right now. I actually live in the city. I grew up in Westchester County, so just outside the city. So I grew up with a lot of Giants fans, and I was one of the only Packers fans in my high school. So, I got to say the Giants are not one of my favorite teams, not because of any other reason other than when you guys beat us in the NFC Championship game, Favre's last season. And then when we were the number one seed with Rodgers, and then obviously you beat us then. That was some tough times for my childhood. So
you did get us back. Yeah, you did get us back in 2016.
That's right.
We were, but yeah, those were two really sweet wins. You went the Tom Grossi route, living in Westchester as a Packers fan. I grew up in Northern Virginia, so I was the only Giants fan in the sea of Redskins fans at the time.
Yep.
So I get it. I get being the guy, the odd man out, and it's actually fun, honestly, to not go with the crowd and just be like, hey, I'm not one of y'all. It's cool. But it does kind of grow the resentment for them as well, because when they're all happy, they're all dunking on you, and like you're just like,
Exactly.
all right, I get it.
Right.
I get it.
Right, and that's one of the reasons we started this show. Jeremy's actually from the Pennsylvania area, so we're
Okay.
both Packers transplants without actually being transplants because we never lived in Wisconsin. Jeremy's family is actually originally from Wisconsin. My family has no Wisconsin ties whatsoever. I believe my dad and his brother became Packers fans because of Vince Lombardi, and we're Italian. Um, so that's good. But one of the reasons we started the show and love the online like Twitter, YouTube aspect is it doesn't really matter anymore if you're in the area where you're a fan of the team, right? Because you have such a community online and can express your fandom with people that aren't maybe necessarily in your vicinity with you. So, yeah, that's been our kind of motivation between starting this podcast, kind of focused on the fans. And yeah, we're happy to have you on to give a Giants point of view after yesterday's game. So,
Yeah, the online community is great. It's hard having any actual friends. Like my best friend from high school, the reason we are best friends is
okay.
because I was wearing Giants gear and he walks by wearing Giants. I was like, hey, you're one of the weirdos too.
Right.
And but now you can find people online, and you have this huge community of other people that like to complain about your team, which seems to be the only reason for social media to exist. It's never happy, like I guess maybe the day after your team wins the Super Bowl, you can breathe the sigh of relief, but most of the time it's complaining.
Agreed.
It's like, what are we doing here?
Right.
And that's that kind of leads perfectly into this weekend, I'll tell you that.
Right, and that's a great story to hear about your best friend being because he was a Giants fan as well. It's funny, Jeremy and I actually have a similar story. That I was on vacation wearing my Packers jersey, and Jeremy was a lifeguard at the place I was staying at, and he's like, "Oh, you're a Packer." This was during COVID. He had a Packers mask on, and we just started talking about kind of. Actually, Tom came up like the YouTube thing, but his family's season ticket holders. So we were talking about that for like almost an hour, probably, Jeremy, if we're
At
right.
least.
And then, yeah, 6 months later, we started a podcast and kind of create like a little bit of a group of Packers fans. So yeah, it's great stuff. Like so I went to the game yesterday, and on the train from the Manhattan to MetLife, I met another Packers fan. We kind of started talking. My age, lives in the city. We just have something that you have like an immediate connection because you could talk about football with that person. So
it's really cool. In some other cities, they develop I was in San Francisco. They had a New Orleans Saints themed bar.
okay,
And it was all Saints fans that just gathered there every Sunday. It was really cool. Like these pockets of fandom, just develop. Probably, it's like you find one or two other guys, and you're just like, hey, we're gonna hang out here every Sunday. And yeah, there might be Packer hangout somewhere in the city that I don't know,
there
but it's
is.
possible. Yeah.
Yeah, Kettle of Fish is the big one. Those are people that basically started a bar, but they're from Wisconsin. There's another one that I've been going to recently where you're exactly right. It was just a bunch of guys that were playing on a flag football team. I think most of them were Packers fans, and they went to this bar and basically said, "Hey, can we make bratwurst in the back room and have a bunch of people watch the Packers game?" And I started going this year when I moved to the city. But they've been doing this for multiple years, and they give away food for free, basically, which is
That's
a really cool
awesome.
thing. Yeah, really cool thing. Which is not, knowing New York, knowing Manhattan, free stuff is hard to come by. So
Yeah, it is. I'll tell you that. I mean, I've been to the city. I'm not from the city, but I've been to
okay,
the city plenty
yep,
of times.
yep,
Like my father has, or my late father has family up there, and
okay,
we used to go all the time. And I know a lot of people there too, so it's really fun to go into the city and just enjoy. And it's great when the Giants are actually winning, but
right,
it's just pretty rare. The last decade, it's not really happening, and it's a city that's really hungry for this team to be good again, and
right,
it's probably going to take a couple years, so
right.
we'll see.
Right. See, I don't think I personally could root for the Giants, but I'm a Yankees fan, but I was rooting for the Mets 2 years ago when there was a possible Subway Series. That would have been awesome as a New Yorker to see Mets and Yankees in the World Series. So
Yeah, as a Mets fan, it's really hard to root for the Yankees in any situation. Maybe in 1996, it was like rooting for the Mets, anyways.
yep.
But other than that, it's tough to root for the Yankees. It's hard to believe that they haven't won a World Series in, gosh,
2009, right?
15,
2009,
Yeah,
yeah.
16.
14
Yep.
years, 16.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Right.
But they'll probably get it together. They'll start spending again.
Yeah.
Yep. So okay, so we know how you became a Giants fan. Now we're curious how the channel came about, how you got involved with clickbait, met Tom, and everything like that. Yeah, we'd love to hear about that.
Okay, so 2012, I had a really good job. I was a healthcare executive. I was doing well. And then one day I got laid off, and I was like, "Oh, this is great." And I had an Xbox, and I had been playing, and the Giants had just won the Super Bowl, so I was like, "Oh, I want to play Madden again. Madden's really fun." And I was playing. I'm unemployed. I got nothing better to do. After you look for jobs, you're just like, all right, I'm going to sit around and do something. And then I saw a play. I was like, how do you defend a screen? I know there's some resources online that tell you how to get better at Madden, and I'm really competitive. Like, I don't like losing. And so I Googled, I was like, how to defend a screen in Madden. And then I saw this guy doing gameplay commentary, and I was like, what? They make capture, you can capture the game footage and you can talk on it. I was like, I think I'm pretty funny. I could do that. But then I was like, this is cool. So I bought the capture card mount. Now, my original intent was to just film game footage and like break it down and be like, and get better at Madden. But then I was like, all right, you know what? Talking over it sounds way easier. So I started out as I wanted to help beginners at Madden. And that's how 5Pointvids started, because there'd be 5 points
Okay.
of information
Ah.
in each video. I'd be like, all right, this is, the top 5 things you can do as a beginner. And then I just looked at it, I was like, man, there's guys that are crazy good at Madden, like insanely good, like just working on glitch blitzes like all day. I was like, well, I'm not that good. And then but I just started uploading, and I really loved the process of making a video. It wasn't really that I necessarily thought I would do anything with it or become a YouTuber. And then one day, and then I got sick of Madden. I was like, I've had enough of this game. It just really sucked to me. Like, you would hit the X button on a crossing route and it would throw it to the safety like 20 yards down the field. I was like, I'm not that dumb. But so I switched over to NHL hockey, and I was just playing the NHL and enjoying that process. And then one day I was like, I wonder if I just actually, and it sounds really dumb, I wonder if I actually try to make a video. Like, I wonder if I'd write a script and actually map it out and make a video and that I think someone would want to watch. And I know it sounds elementary, but it was like a light went off in my head. Like, wow, if you actually try, let's see what the results are. And that video just blew up, like got like 40,000 views, and it was much more than I had been used to. And I was like, I might have something here. Let me see if I can repeat this. And then, I started getting 50, 100,000 views. And then one day I was like, I want to do like a logo critique of the NHL logos. And I don't know how child friendly this podcast is, but I got extremely stoned and just made this video. And I did it all in one take, and it blew up. Got like 800,000 views. And then I was like, okay, I figured something out. And I said, I wonder if I do this for the NFL. And then I did it for the NFL, and then that one got 400. Like, all of a sudden I went from 1,000 views on a video to now 500,000 to 1,000,000 views on a video. And I was like, all right. And then SeatGeek reached out to me, and they were like, hey, we want to sponsor your videos. I was like, what the fuck is SeatGeek? I don't even know. This was when it was first coming out. I was like, but you want to pay me money? I will entertain whatever you want to do. And then 1 month, I got back on my feet. I went back to work. I was back in healthcare, but I still loved making videos. And then one month I made more on YouTube than in my day job. And I was like, okay, we got to start thinking about whether this is, because this is certainly a lot more fun than listening to some corporate douchebag tell me, that the KPIs are due or some shit like that. I was like, we got to consider what we're doing here. And then, yeah, it was 2018. I quit my job, and I've been a full-time YouTuber ever since. And I'd say it's worked out, and it's going well. So, yeah, and I'm forever grateful for all those people that started watching me in the beginning and that can still continue to watch me. Like, I'm glad that everyone stuck with me over this and the new viewers that come in. I keep trying to do better and raise the standard for content. And trust me, YouTube makes it that way. You can't, there are no days off on the platform. I'll tell you that.
Right. And it's been 12 years now, but 8 years it seems since the new style content. How do you keep it like fresh and from the creative side? That's a long time to do anything. So it's exciting that you're still going strong,
Yeah, the thing, I don't run out of necessarily ideas. My big thing is prioritizing the ideas and making sure that I'm making the video that I think is best. And I'm not even still good at that. Like sometimes I want to make videos that I feel like I can just make easier, that I also find interesting. That's one part of burnout. It can be really real when you're looking at a script or an idea where you're like where you can't see it fully from start to finish. It might be a good concept and you're like, all right, I know this can this can get a lot of views, but if I don't see it, if I can't really map it out in my head, I kind of lose the steam for making that video, and it feels kind of dead if I try to power through it. Sometimes I'll stop in the middle of a project if I start writing a video and I'm like, there's not much here, that part of the process is tough. But on the flip side is like I never run out of ideas. I have ideas upon ideas that I still need to make, and it's the problem I have is prioritizing. And then there's sometimes where I'm looking at all 80 ideas, I'm like, none of these are good. I'm just like, well, I don't even want to make these. But yeah, staying fresh with content is a big challenge, especially trying to stay relevant and trying to keep up. Someone like Tom or Brandon, they have weekly series that they can come out with, and I've tried to do that before, but sometimes it's frustrating because that's not really what I do, and it's not always like Tree has sports ball, and Brandon has power rankings, and Tom has if the NFL was scripted. And I'd love to develop a weekly series like that, but at the same time it's like I like doing what I do, and I think sometimes you got to really lean into who you are and not try to copy what everybody else is doing.
Great. Sure, question.
Yeah, so I know, I noticed, you have the baseball jersey behind you, and Tree have obviously participated in those baseball competitions. Have you and the rest of the Clickbait members ever thought of doing a flag football competition, for a charity sponsored one?
We did, and the problem with that is, and we had a bunch of big names because Scooter knows big names and I've met MMG and a lot of other content creators, and we started organizing a flag football contest, but in order to do that, there'd be a lot of production that we'd have to hire a video crew. There'd be a lot of investment, and what I was looking for is a partner that could the thing about the competitions, playing a summer league team like the Burlington Sock Puppets or the Portland Pickles, they have a field and it's ready for us and they have fans and everything. All we have to do is show up. If we were to do a flag football, we're gonna have to rent the venue, get a TV crew, or find space to do it, and that's a lot more logistically difficult. And for charity, like these games, the games that we play, it's for charity, and all the travel costs, everything is on our own dime. And so honestly, we don't really get much out of it monetarily. Like the content does okay, but I've lost way more money than I've gained from any piece of content from the game. So it's generally challenging to do that, but someday we might do a flag football and it'll be fun. And Tom will start at wide receiver for sure.
Yeah, that'd be the cool part to see like people that talk about it, and like especially Tom, where he's talking about playing wide receiver, in person, actually do it, put his money where his mouth is. So I agree. It's some of those things. It sounds great, but then when you actually do it, just logistics and money, like you never really know how it's going to pan out. And so I met someone who's on our show quite a bit. His name is John, through Tom's 30 and 30 events. And when we had Tom on the show, we asked him like there's no way you knew day one like how that was gonna pan out. And I mean, he's the first one to say that like they had to iterate so much and kind of just change their plans throughout that whole trip. There's just so many things that change when you do something in person because it's impossible to script that, behind a camera on TV, like, you can script it, and if something goes wrong, you edit it, you fix it, but in person it's not. So and it could be for the better. I mean, I remember he was telling us a story about how he went to the Carolina Panthers bar, and he just thought no one was going to show up to that meetup, and it was one of the most attended ones the entire time. So the in-person one is obviously hard logistically, but sometimes it's really cool because there's the added value of like, in interpersonal connections that could occur. Um, do it. So yeah, so that's all I had to
That
say on
was
that.
insane. When Tom did that, like he came to DC and I drove up all the way from Richmond to go see
Right.
him. And I was just, I think he was, maybe halfway through when he was doing that. So I knew there was going to be plenty of people there. I just didn't expect, there was, a couple hundred people maybe that
Wow.
were there. And I was like, this is impressive what he's able to do. He comes running out from the metro station in a Commander's jersey dressed as Wildflower.
As Wildflower, right.
Yeah. And then, I go to the event and, a lot of people know me and they're talking to me and it's surreal to have someone want your autograph or want to take a picture with you when you're just like, all right, I'm just a guy that in my basement who's making videos. I don't know why, it's like Mitch Hedberg said, or you're trying to make me late for something.
Right.
And it was just a great time, and the fans are tremendous. Tom has built quite a following, and it's awesome to call him my friend.
That's awesome. And was that like, have you ever had that experience before, just in public, somebody recognizing you, or is that kind of new to you going to that event?
It happens about 2 to 3 times a year. It'll
Okay.
depend on where I am. If I'm near a baseball field, it's more likely to happen. A lot of people will just come up to me and say, "Hey, are you that guy?" It's getting more and more now that I'm appearing on camera more often. I think for the first 4 years, I didn't even appear on camera.
Okay.
But now it happens 2 to 3 times. I was in a grocery store one time and I walked around the corner and this guy's eyes just light up and I was like, oh, are we having like a moment or something? Like, what is he gonna ask me for my number? And then like I walked around the corner again, and it's the same guy, and he just smiles again. I was like, what is going on? And then he finally catches me in the eyes, like, I love your videos, man. I was like, oh bro. I was like, do you want to like I always if someone wants to take a selfie, like I think that's absolutely fine. I don't ever want to be someone that's not approachable. Like it's always sort of an anxious time when you recognize someone and you're like, hey, can I, I'm a huge fan. Do you mind if I get a picture? Or sometimes, I don't want to bother people. I've run into mega athletes before and I didn't even it's hard to really even know how to handle it now. Like I think I met LeBron James and I was like, what's up, LeBron James? And he did shake my hand and he was very cordial about it, but then Dwayne Wade looked at me like I was crazy because he was like behind him and I was like, man, I think I'm lucky enough to have been around more athletes and more famous people to know that they're just people,
Right.
And some of them love it, some of them love the attention, and others could not care less or actually hate it, and that's fine. That's their right. Totally. I don't like that camp of people that say, "Oh, you're famous, like you should." That comes with the territory. It's like, no, that's your job, like no one comes up to you, if you're a guy that pours concrete, and it's like, hey, you're that guy that pours concrete, like you don't expect that to be part of the job sometimes,
Right. So yeah, going into I guess notoriety, I'm sure the clickbait show has actually increased your viewer count a lot because of all four or five of you guys that are on it. So I'm just curious how you got involved, kind of how that's changed your channel since being part of that.
So clickbait started with, it was me and Brandon and I. So Tree and I have been friends since basically like 2018. We both kind of went full time at the same time. I remember seeing one of Tree's videos. I was like, I just sent him a comment. I was like, dude, you're hilarious. You are meant for this. You need to do this. Like, make these videos. And then I followed him on Twitter. He followed me back. We would interact or mess. I was like, dude, I'm a big fan. He's like, yeah, I see what you're doing too. And then one time I was in Pittsburgh and I was like, hey, I'm gonna be in Pittsburgh, do you want to hang out? And he was like, I guess. Like Tree's kind of weird. Like I love Tree, but he is admittedly autistic. And I have ADHD. We're both kind of neurodivergent, and like I didn't know whether he actually wanted to meet me or not. So I meet him in Pittsburgh, and we've been friends ever since. And one time, and then I was like, hey, do you want to do a show together? And then we started the Dumpster Fire.
Yep.
And then somehow Tree met Brandon. Like Brandon sent him a message on Twitter. And then Tree introduced me to Brandon. Brandon and I have been friends ever since. Brandon and I actually have the same agent or talent representative. And Brandon set all that up for me. And then one day I was like, Brandon, we should start a mega show. Like me, you, Tom, and Tree should start a show. Because Tom had been on the Dumpster Fire. That's how we met. I was like, Tom, I think he had 80,000 subs or something at the time. Like, I was like, Tom, you should come on the Dumpster Fire. And then we just had he told the story of Head and Shoulders and how he got invited to the Super Bowl. And we were all instantly friends from there. Like, you just meet people and, you're going to be friends.
Right.
And then Scooter had been a guest on the Dumpster Fire. And Scooter, it's funny because Scooter was one of the first YouTubers I ever watched. And I was like, he's hilarious. He does these, shit that Cowboys fans say. Remember those videos?
Yeah.
And I was like, and now all of a sudden he's a guest on my podcast. And now I'm friends with him. And so, but then I told Brandon, I was like, dude, let's create a mega show. And originally it was me, him, Tom, and Tree. And we did a test show. At first, we got on StreamYard and we were just talking about it. And then somebody went live with it. And we were actually live and we didn't know. And all of a sudden, super chats just started coming in like crazy. And we were like, yo, we're just testing the format. Like, we're not actually doing a show. And it just went insane from show one. Like, I think we had 10,000 viewers or something like that. And then Scooter saw the show and was like, yo, I gotta be the fifth. Like, you have to let me in. And we're like, of course, Scooter. Like, why wouldn't we? In fact, I was ashamed that I didn't even think of Scooter to be part of the original 5. And then it just went kind of crazy from there. And then I had the idea. I was talking to Brandon. I was like, how about we make whoever gets the most super chats like a punishment? Because I'd been watching like Impractical Jokers.
Oh yes,
it's hilarious how they punish someone at the end of every episode. I was like, we got to do it where whoever gets the most is the quote unquote loser, which really it's not losing. I mean, you're getting the most money for the day. But it ended up being like a really clever way to not only broadcast to all of our channels at once and share audiences, but also have a fun way of punishing each other. And it's been just, I can't believe we've done it for I think 5 years, maybe 6 years. It's been just nothing, nonstop laughs and good times ever since.
Yeah, I'll say the one punishment that I always remember is you being Bob Ross. That was the first time and the reason why I remember is the first time I ever watched it. And I was like, why is this guy dressed up as Bob Ross? You know what I mean? And he was doing it the entire show. I didn't understand what it was at the time, but it was funny. I remember that. So that was my one introduction to the
I remember the plunger one. Remember the plunger on the top of the head? That's number
Okay.
5. I remember that one with you.
Yeah, that was also classic. That was a dumpster fire, and that started in, I think it was the 2018 draft. I said, if someone gives a $500 super chat, I'll put a plunger on my head, and someone did. I thought it was a joke, and then I grabbed the plunger. It was completely like dirty. Like I was not prepared to actually follow through, and I like stuck it right on my head. It was rough, but like the audience, they learned, quickly that we'll do whatever it takes to make them happy, and yeah. Tom has gone all out on his punishments. Scooters, no one's ever complained. No, I mean, you do get like one veto if it's something that's just too much, but I don't think that the audience also has amazingly come up with great punishments over the years as well.
Mm-hmm.
And Tom wearing the Head and Shoulders costume was one of the most funny I've ever had seen, because he's like dying of heat exhaustion but still doing the show, which was great.
That's great. Okay, Jeremy, do you have any other questions? Otherwise, you want to go into the Giants real quick? Giants Packers.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask Five this one question as we're getting more football here. If you could change one rule in the NFL right now, what would it be and why?
I think that some penalties should be able to be reviewed, like false start, play clock expiration, like things that are not subject to any, that not any type of subjectiveness. Like those type of penalties should be able to be reviewed, like and like the forward progress being stopped, like that fumble, where the Giants, like that's something where there should be some type of review on it, especially because there was a clear recovery in that game. Excuse me. But yeah, things like a play clock expiring, like that's not, there's no guessing there. And a lot of times the refs just miss it, and it's infuriating. Or a false start, where there's no question that the guy moved before the snap. That should be able to be challengeable. And it could mean the difference between a win and a loss sometimes. But that's where I would like to see some adjustments in the rules. And personally, I like the touchback rule. If you fumble before the 1 through the end zone, I love that rule. Yeah, honestly, like it's like, oh, this is my last desperation thing. If I bat the ball out at the 1, I get a touchback. You gotta have. Football is a game that has a finite time frame, but it should have endless hope. And that you can't take away hope from a player that's running down another player as he's about to score. And that would do it. If a fumble into the end zone, just you get the ball back at the 1, that's ridiculous. You should be punished for your stupidity.
Yeah, totally agree with that. And then the point about reviewing the delay of games, we've actually brought that up last year. The Packers had a problem where they kept missing delay of games that would have been in our favor. And we were saying on the show last year they should have some kind of buzzer on the referee's wrist, because the problem they were having was you have to look up at the play clock, and you have to look down at the ball, and then in that split second or 2 seconds, if they snap it, they don't call the delay of game. But if they have a buzzer, you look directly at the ball, your buzzes off, and they know when the play clock ends. So I think there's a better way than looking up, looking down. So we totally, at least I totally agree on that one. So yeah,
absolutely. And they seem to have like selective enforcement of when to, like they'll give them a half second, and I'm like, that's just not fair. Like the clock is the clock. And false starts are false starts. There's no, you can't just dictate it because you don't feel like calling a penalty in that moment.
No, definitely. I was a little surprised you didn't go with the tush push there, Five, especially as a Giants fan.
I think I don't think I don't think it's arguable at this point. I think it's gonna be banned. I don't mind the fact that that they line up and like a QB sneak is part of the game. It's the fact that 2-3 guys can help push it forward, and I don't mind that out in the open field. What I think they'll do is alter the rules so that the pushing forward can only be 3 yards downfield, or or outside of the tackles, or some type of forward pushing assist can only be it can't be off of or maybe the player that got the direct snap cannot be pushed forward. It has to be after a pass or after a handoff. That could help a lot of things, because the tush push is just it's obviously something that a weasel like Nick Sirianni would come up with. Like, the guy just looks like a weasel, and it's not surprised that it's gonna probably be on the way out. So I don't think it's something that we necessarily even need to argue about. I think it will be altered by next year in some form.
Gotcha.
Good, Jared. Do you want to go into the recap of the Giants game real quick? About like 10 minutes or so?
Yeah, let's head into it, folks. Well, it was a very windy game. Mike was at the game yesterday, folks. Very windy. I think it was like 30 wind mileage, if I'm correct, or something like that crazy, where we had extra points were missed by both kickers. Really, it was the Packers kicker who messed up more because it was a lot closer. The throwing was bad. Packers could have easily picked off Winston like 5 times. And Winston actually played pretty good up until the end, throwing that interception. And the Giants played pretty solid, I will say, throughout the entire game. With the run game, they did pretty well with, and how they wanted to control the clock and how they want to handle the game. I thought they did a pretty good job of that. Then the Packers sneak away with Jordan Love come back into the game. But the big thing to me in the picture of it is the MetLife Stadium, of how injuries can happen on that stadium so much, where there was like multiple players on both sides getting hurt. And the Packers won that game 27-20, which Packers, they win by having to score 27 or they lose by 3. That's how it tells you every week, except the Cowboys game, folks. I don't know how, but that's how it happens.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I thought the Giants played well enough. They're a team that's depleted. They don't have their best player on offense, Malik Neighbors. They don't have their second best player on offense, Jackson Dart. They don't have their third best player, Cam Scattaboo. Like, they're down to almost nothing, and they scared the Packers. And they had a 7-point lead in the fourth quarter, or 6 points because of all the missed extra points. But that's what's frustrating about this team, is they are miscoached, they are mismanaged. They have some talent, but they have areas of glaring weaknesses. You see Deontay Banks, very lackluster effort every week. Like, I don't know if you guys have a player on the Packers that just frustrates you, where you're just like, get this guy off the field. But the Giants have that in Deontay Banks. There's other teams, the teams that are doing well in this league, the Broncos, the Colts. There's no guy that is constantly getting his name called out as someone who's underperforming. But for the Giants, it's, Drew Phillips every week. It's Deontay Banks not even trying. It's other guys on offense, and Jalen Hyatt has been sort of the encapsulation of what's wrong with this team. Is it's crazy talented and lack of attention to detail. And I think these guys, they might be good people. They might be great teammates. But as a fan, it's really frustrating when you see a guy who's representing your team not take care of the little details that you would think someone football obsessed, it's their job to play football, would do. But again, they don't have to love the game. That's why we're fans. We love the game. And it's just very frustrating to watch this team. And then the Giants defense in the fourth quarter, this is one of the worst fourth quarter defenses in the league. They've blown multiple, they gave up 32 points to the Broncos in a fourth quarter. And I wasn't shocked that the Packers were going to come back and win this game, because the Giants. It's also really frustrating that they have these pass rushers. They have Abdul Carter. They have Dexter Lawrence. They have Brian Burns. Thibodeau didn't play. He's constantly hurt. But they have this talent up front, and they don't get to the quarterback. And that's another detail thing where they were chasing Caleb Williams around all last week. And every time they were close to him, he was able to evade him. And they chased Jordan Love around. I don't think they sacked. They might have sacked Love once. On a blitz off the edge. But that's another thing where it's like, all right, what are you guys working on in practice? Where's the scouting report? Where does Love like to go when he's being pressured? Is it to the right, to the left? And these are the things that, again, frustrate you as a fan, because we probably had 2 or 3 sacks at least where Love was in big time trouble. He was able to escape, get flushed to the right, which is always good. Anytime you get you cut the field in half, that's great. But then I think Love completed, a couple passes that should not have been completed because they can't really cover well downfield. And that's what it's been like all season with this team. They're good and bad at the same time, but they're mostly bad.
Right. Did you think it was right with Brian Dable getting fired, though? Do you think it was like the right time for that, or wait till the end of the season maybe to fire him?
Dable was going to be fired if he did not show any improvement upon last year, and I think that was the plan, and it was pretty clear that they weren't improving. And you look at how they lost games and how they were just mismanaged, and it could have been just bad luck, etc. But those are unacceptable losses. Having a 19-0 lead with 5 minutes left in the game or some shit like that, and then losing by or 19-6 was the lead with 5. You should not lose games that way. And it was time for him to go. And I think they want to they wanted to create a little bit of disarray so that they lose out anyways. Like Dable's probably like, fuck that, I want to win. So this is very predictable for a team that wants a number 2 or number 3 draft pick. They keep the most unblameable guy in Shane Bowen because they want to lose games. Trust me, like losing is winning at this point. And they want to give Kafka a shot and an audition at if any other team wants to either hire him. But I think they go with a completely new staff. I'm getting used to the idea that Mike McCarthy is more than likely going to be the coach of this team every day, because it just seems like they are tired of this malarkey of bringing in a guy with no experience. They've done it, Joe Judge, Ben McAdoo, and now Brian Dable. Like, come on, bring in an adult, please. And if that guy is Mike McCarthy, who seems to be the only guy available out there that's young enough to lead a team and is professional enough, and these guys won a Super Bowl. No one hated Mike McCarthy when the Packers were going, winning 12 games, or 15-1. He was seen as the guy. Now he kind of soured at the end. He was easy to blame as things were happening. I think the structure of the team, you needed a Matt LaFleur, you needed a young guy to come in and take over. And, Matt LaFleur can find himself on the hot seat every once in a while if the team's not performing. But I think McCarthy's going to bring a level of professionalism and adultness that maybe the Giants, I don't like it. I'm saying that that's what I want, but I'm getting used to the idea because it could probably happen.
Right. That makes sense. And the one thing I was going to respond to your point about, is there a player in our team that really frustrates me? That for me, it's Luke Musgrave. And he almost lost us the game yesterday. And honestly, I thought that was a fumble personally. I was sitting next to a Giants fan in MetLife, and I was like, that's a fumble. I mean, I don't understand how they picked that up. And it would have been right before half. It would have been right basically.
Right, like it would have been. I think it would have been like a 55 or 60 yarder. I think it was
right with 40 seconds left. So
and I think the Giants had a couple timeouts, and it would have automatically at least put them in position for a bad field goal attempt. And the rain was, or the wind was crazy yesterday,
It
but
was. Yep.
that could have definitely swung the momentum big time. And I cannot believe that not only that, or the touchdown before, I think it was Bellinger in the end zone where he caught it. He took a step, he moved, and then, he didn't survive the ground, but that could have easily been called a touchdown as well.
Mhm.
So there was some questionable replays there, but I think yeah, it doesn't, the game didn't come down to two calls, but
Nope.
sometimes it could definitely swing momentum. Giants played well enough to win that. I just don't think they wanted to. They
Yeah.
really didn't want to win.
Right.
Mhm.
The one thing I'll say from the coach perspective is I didn't understand the challenge of Josh Jacobs in the first quarter, going out of bounds like that. It was just
yeah.
it didn't even really matter. Honestly, it was only a few yards.
I think sometimes they challenge just to use the timeout. Like they see their defense is winded and they're like, all right, let's just challenge. We're actually going to waste a timeout anyways. If we win it, we win the challenge. But yeah, clearly Josh Jacobs' foot was inbounds. But that's not a good start to Mike Kafka's coaching tenure, just losing a challenge like that. But it's
right, exactly.
I think in the first half too, like how often do you burn all three timeouts? Pretty much
Right.
never,
That's
in
fair.
the first half. Second half, the timeouts make a huge difference. But
100%.
in the first half, like maybe you see your defense is winded and you're just like, all right, let's just call a fake challenge here. Because with the challenge, you get like 3 minutes of rest, and I think they ended up bucking up and stopping the Packers after on that drive. So it ended up working out that they just broke the momentum.
Yep.
Right. And then last question for my part, and then we could wrap it up unless Jeremy have anything else. But just what's the early returns on Jackson Dart in your opinion? Do you think he's gonna be the guy long term?
Yeah, you look at rookie QBs out there, right? You got on the lower end examples, you got Dylan Gabriel and Shador Sanders, guys out there that they come in and they make zero impact. Dart came in and made an immediate impact. He seems to have good instincts when the pocket is collapsing and when he needs to take off. He's super athletic in the open field. He is a little reckless and he needs to tighten that up or else his career is going to be very short. He might, I'm concerned about that, but his instincts are great. I said, everyone laughed at me, Scooter, especially when I was like, I like Jackson Dart. I think he's the Giants guy. And then they traded up for him. They got him. And he's gone out and proved that he has an impact. And effective rookie play is pretty rare out of a guy that has only sat and watched 3 games, and then he's coming in and he's playing well. Jaden Daniels did it last year, and he was much more mature than a lot of people thought, and that's when you're like, all right, we got a special player now. Jaden Daniels is hurt this year, but that not everybody gets 3-4 years to develop like Jordan Love. And Bo Nix last year, he's in his second year. He's impactful enough to already make it to a playoff game. He's extremely frustrating to watch, but he is impactful, and that's what you want as a Giants fan. You had Daniel Jones there, and I don't know what. Daniel Jones has a resurgence in Indy, but they have a very good offensive line.
Yep.
And it's not hard to look good behind a wall of protectors, and that's one thing the Giants aren't going to have for the next probably 2 years is an actual effective line in front of Dart. So he's made for a team that has shit all in front of him, and that's the other point is that we'll see how he, hopefully he settles in and develops into a guy like you'd rather have a guy that can handle the pressure and then not have to deal with it later than the other way around.
Yep.
No,
so yeah, I think Dart, I like early returns on Dart are positive for me.
Perfect.
And then my last question I had for you, Adam, was about the Giants GM. Now, of course, he gets Jackson Dart, which that's a good pick for you. You also got Cam Scabby, which I will say, just for the heck of it, the Giants have a lot of aura to me of like the Winston, Scabby, and Dart. They just give a lot of aura. I like that a lot. But with the Giants GM, obviously you've seen the famous clip of like his son telling them to draft the better quarterback, or the Saquon Barkley clip on Hard Knocks where Joe didn't want to pay Saquon. He ends up going to Philly. What has your thoughts been on Joe in his tenure with the Giants?
I'm actually about to do a video on Joe Shane. I want to dive into his moves and see really whether he's obvious. You know what the most insulting thing to a smart person is when a dumbass calls them stupid, right? And you got all these fans that don't understand football calling Joe Shane stupid when he's not an idiot, but it doesn't matter how intelligent you are in football. It all is about results.
Yes.
On paper, letting Saquon walk was the smart thing. It was what everyone expected the Giants to do. You don't give, like, there's these unwritten rules. You don't give a running back a second deal. You know, looking even at Christian McCaffrey. Yeah, he got him to the Super Bowl, but look at the 49ers now. They're strapped with a big contract he is special, but those are 1 out of 32 guys that can make a difference. Saquon happened to be 1 out of 2 out of 32 guys, and it ended up backfiring. So all the work on paper you can do, it can still look dumb. And the other thing is, what if they keep him and he injures his leg in the first week?
Yep.
Then he looks like an idiot. Like, you just can't predict that. So you got to play the numbers. And yeah, it ended up being egg on his face. I'm looking at it from the point is like, yeah, Shane has a lot of good. He has a lot of bad. The fact that he drafted Hyatt and Deontay Banks and his moves with the kicker, the ill preparedness, those are the things that are infuriating and that are preventable. You got to cut down the amount of preventable mistakes, and good GMs make those mistakes. Goodenheist has made mistakes. Brett Veach makes mistakes. They all suffer busts. Evan Neal, everyone on earth said draft Evan Neal at the 7 spot. Like, why would you draft this massive human being? I don't even think, like, I'm more frustrated at Evan Neal, the player, than I am at Joe Shane for drafting him, because it doesn't appear that he has wanted to put in the work to, either be a guard or a tackle, or maybe he just wasn't that talented. But clearly, everyone on earth coming out of college was like, this guy is legit. He's a massive human being, and you can make him into an all-pro. And he hasn't even seen the field this year as a Giant, and he's on the IR now. He's going to be cut. He's not going to play a single down this year. So that just tells you that he sucks,
right?
So it's the jury's still out on Joe Shane. The thing is, I think what John Mara is so married to is this idea of a 5-year plan. He gave Gettleman 5 years, and after the 5 years, the 6th year they go to the playoffs, right? They get a new coach and they hire a new GM, and they go, and really Joe Shane didn't do anything, and Dable got lucky. He really he ended up pulling some levers that ended up working out, and they go to the playoffs. They win a playoff game. Now that they're at the end of a 5-year plan with Joe Shane, they got to give him his 5th year. I think John Mara is just married to that idea that you give someone the 5 years that you promise them. And I think that's what's happening. And Shane is probably on the hot seat, but who knows? They could get healthy next year. They get a coach that just doesn't make the mistakes that Brian Dable does. They get a decent D coordinator, and they somehow retain Mike Kafka as the O coordinator, and we'll see. But the frustrating thing is this Giant team is not that far off. They could be 5-5, 6-5 at this point. Instead, they're 2-9. Look at teams like the Bears. The Bears last year, they were 4-2 at one point, and then a couple bad luck things happened. Eberflus is a fucking moron, right? Like, he cost them probably 10 wins all on his own, and now look at them. They're squarely in a playoff spot. Ben Johnson is a good coach. Caleb Williams looks like he's on track to develop at least as thing about Caleb Williams. I know I'm getting off on a side here.
Oh.
He is brilliant and an idiot at the same time. Like, he does things where you're like, what the fuck are you doing? And then he does a play and you're just like, that is not only athletically gifted play, but a high IQ football play, and you're just like this guy's going to be good.
Yep.
It must be frustrating if you're a Bears fan.
Same
with Jordan Love. Jordan Love is very similar to Caleb Williams.
I tend to agree. I mean, 2 weeks ago he was terrible, and then yesterday, I mean, that throw he made to save the game, basically, deep was great. And the touchdown throw to Watson was amazing. That was
Oh my
a
gosh,
great
and
arc.
triple coverage. That was a ballsy freaking throw, and he put it in a perfect spot, and he knew who to pick on. I think that was Deontay Banks. He was like, "Oh, yep, I'm going to look for the matchup that I want," and he got it in there, and that it was a brilliant throw on third down, I believe. So
Yeah.
it was really good.
Yeah.
I was like, "You've got to be kidding me! Triple coverage, and no one can get a hand on the ball."
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the thing with Love is like he can throw like Rodgers sometimes, but has the mind of Brett Favre. Like he will literally like, okay, there's a great play, and then he makes the worst possible play you could imagine. Like with the Eagles game, I remember like he fumbles the ball where they could have gotten 3 points, and that could have definitely been the difference maker in that game.
Yep.
But there's times, especially like his rookie year, where the first half he looked like one of the worst quarterbacks, and then the second half he looked like the best quarterback, arguably MVP of like those stats 8 games he was playing though. So it's like frustrating at the same time. Like he has good moments. I mean, I will say, given the confinements he had to play in yesterday, I think he did a great job and everything. But the jury's still out. I think he's done a solid job this season, but definitely could be a lot better if he plays smart ball.
Yep.
Yeah. Love sometimes, he makes brilliant throws, smart throws, and then he makes throws, and you're just like, oh my God, what kind of, I get it though, like you don't see what he sees. It's hard as us for fans. Like a lot of times, if you've ever played Madden, like sometimes you get locked on to like, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
And you still do it, even though you know that they're like, I would assume that the same thing goes through an NFL quarterback's head where he's like, I want to do this, and it just doesn't happen that way, and they still do it.
Definitely.
Great. All right, so we're coming about an hour here, so we really appreciate you coming on. It was a great episode, in my opinion, and great learning about the channel, kind of your history and YouTube, and talking Giants Packers. Hopefully, we're in the playoffs again. Not so distant future, probably not this year, but
I think you guys will be fine. I think the division is just stacked.
It is,
crazy stacked. Now that the Bears are good, I think it's funny. The Vikings might be the most sus team, and
it's crazy.
And you got them this week. We'll see how that is. I think the Lions are going to beat the Giants, of course. But you're in a very tough division, very competitive. But I think you'll be all right. You're right there. I cannot believe the Bears are in first place. Like who had that? Who had that going? And the Lions or the Vikings, unfortunately, they have a good team, and they're going to probably be the team looking on the outside in.
Right.
I don't know about McCarthy though. I don't know if that's their guy.
They could have had Sam Darnold, and now he's balling out too in Seattle.
I know.
Yeah, Darnold. Who had this universe of Sam Darnold being the guy that we're talking about, like saving franchise, not only turning around a franchise, but saving a franchise, And the thing about Darnold is that he had no previous success, whatsoever at any stop. At least Daniel Jones had led his team to a playoff berth, but what he's doing is surprising, but not. Baker Mayfield is somewhat surprising, but not. He's already led a team to the playoffs. But what Sam Darnold has done is he's been great, and the Vikings are looking kind of dumb for letting him walk. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, they definitely are. I mean, I would say, Adam, this is probably Scooter's version of what he wanted as a chaos, but didn't realize that he had put in it to the scriptwriters, like, can you put the Cowboys in for the Super Bowl? And they're like, we'll scratch it in later. And then they'd be like, no, denied.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So the way we usually end the show is we kind of just go around, let the viewers know where you can find you, kind of like any upcoming projects you have going on. So as our guest, we'd love if you could go first.
So either today or tomorrow, I'm coming out with every NFL stadium to host a NFL game in the Super Bowl era. What happened?
Really?
Anyone that's not being used now.
Okay.
So so it's over 70 stadiums. It's going to be a long video, maybe 35 minutes. It's going to be
Oh, that's exciting.
it's a mega project, and these are the type of videos that I like. You know, they're a pain in the ass to do. They take a lot of research, and you know, but in the end, the product is very satisfying to get out. But during it, there's times where I kind of start to hate the project. But there's also, you know, when it goes out and I get a great response from it, I like that. But man, there's, you know, when so when you do like all these stadiums, you know, and you put the graphic over it, I call it a bumper, you know.
Okay.
Yeah, and then to make 70 bumpers, it's not fun, you know. And yeah, but I do it all because I like the process, and I enjoy the making the product. But that's what's coming out next, and then after that, I'll probably do fixing stadiums in Photoshop. You know, like really asymmetrical or ugly stadiums. I want to take them and redesign them so that they actually look good. You know, and like Levi Stadium is really lopsided, and it's always frustrated me since it's been open. And I did a quick Photoshop of how it should look, and that'll be fun. That'll be a little bit shorter, but I'll have fun with that. And then also I'm going to do a video on Joe Shane. Like, you know, Joe Shane, genius or idiot, is basically what I'm going to try to figure out, whether, you know, he's dumb or, you know, or he's just had bad luck. But he seems to find players that suck, you know.
Interesting.
So,
And real quick on your stadium upcoming video, I'm assuming you did one on the Milwaukee County Stadium that the Packers used to play on. That's part of the
yes, I was actually surprised at how many NFL games have been played at Milwaukee County. The 126 NFL games over a 40-year time period. They used to play 2 or 3 games a year in Milwaukee.
That's right.
Which kind of blows my mind, because it's like if the Giants were like, yo, we're gonna play in Connecticut 2 games.
Exactly,
like,
right.
why? Like, it's crazy, but they did it for a long time. And at one point, they even tried to make Milwaukee County like the permanent home of the Packers. Like, they were just like, hey, why don't you guys just come here? You know, you're in shitty ass Green Bay. Like, why don't you, you know? And I thankfully, the Packers and the fans were like, oh, what are you talking about? We're not moving to Milwaukee. Fuck that shit. And yeah, it's just crazy or absurd that any NFL team now would play 2 games in another stadium just for the heck of it.
Right, it's very unique. And they still have to this day the green and gold package, which is I forget which one's which. Is it the gold one where
the gold
they're from
one,
Milwaukee?
Yeah.
So
I have the shirts every year.
if you ever go to Lambeau and it's a
It's always
gold
an
package game, there's a lot more traffic going from Milwaukee to what do you call it, Green Bay? Yeah, because all the fans are the old Milwaukee County Stadium season tickets.
So they're like grandfathered in.
That's correct. That's correct. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I have that as part of the season ticket holder package with my dad, who got him in '93 somehow. I have that as the package, so I have to go through that every single year with my dad. We have to go through it, and luckily this time we went, because you have to, now the new rule is, as a season ticket holder, you have to go to 2 games at least a year for the golden package instead of like just 1, because of the opposing fans when they had that Thursday night football game a couple years ago with the Lions. You saw how many Lions fans happened and came out on that. Now they're trying to enforce it, and you'll see Matt LaFleur, like today in the press conference, he was like really yelling to the Packer fans, like, don't sell the tickets to the Viking fans, just keep them and have all the home crowd you can have. So that's been the thing of like the debate now has been, folks, we should get rid of the golden package, but because of that 2-game thing, that's what the influence was because of that.
Gotcha. That's crazy. Yeah, because I was just like, it's insane that they would, you know, play 2 games at another location, and they did it for a long time, but they haven't done it since 1994, and I don't think it'll ever happen. Like, they're not going to play in Miller Park or whatever. So, you know.
Right.
No.
All right, Jeremy, you want to go? Mine's quick. You know that.
Yes, I know yours is quick. All right, folks, you can find me on the Twitter of the PackReacts, mostly on the YouTube channel where I do my sports content as well. Like with Adam, how he's doing with his stadiums, I do my own GOAT series. So right now we're going through the decade team of season 4 of the GOAT series I'm doing now on my channel. We're going through the 2020s, the 2010s, all the way back to when football started in the 1920s. And we talk about who are the greatest players in each decade. We've gone through who's the best in each franchise history, who's the best at each position. And so we're going back and forth to see how did football really happen in that true era. So that's what we're focusing on right now. In the 1980s, coming out probably later this week, and we just posted the 1990s with Jeff, who's been a recurring guest on our channel.
Oh, really? I gotta watch that.
I sent it
in
the chat.
Yeah, that sounds amazing.
Yeah, Jeremy does a great job. He's really good at this. From my perspective, I'll be on the show, and I'm Jeremy's co-host, but also running the PackReacts Twitter. Which
you did good yesterday.
I did do good yesterday. I think yesterday for the Twitter was one of our best days. We got 733 likes and 40 retweets on a video. So I'll take that.
I think it was
that's
like
not too bad.
40,000 total views. I think it was from the 40 total thousand views.
There you go.
Let's
so
get it.
I'll it's not my best video I've ever done. Actually, the best video I ever did, I robbed from somebody else on what do you call
Snapchat.
it? The Bills. No, the Bills. It was when the playoff game that they got pushed because of the snow. Somebody took a video from inside, and I found it on Twitter. They had like no videos. What do you call? No, actually, I got it from Snapchat. That's right. I got it from Snapchat Live. Yeah. Oh, you did say it, yeah. And that was, I think, got a few thousand likes, but I'll take that 750. So that was a win. So
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And
slowly but surely.
I described your video, Mike, as the Packers win yesterday. It looked ugly, but the job got done.
The quality was okay.
Yeah.
And it posted from inside the stadium, which is tough
to
do. So. All right, cool. So Jeremy will take us out, but first I just wanted to thank you 5 Points for coming on. It was a great show, and it was great having you.
All right. Likewise, and go Giants.
Yep.
And I'll be rooting for the Packers. Hopefully you make the playoffs. You're my secondary team.
Really?
Okay. So, I like seeing Scooter happy or Scooter miserable and Tom.
Yeah.
Happy.
There we go.
Yeah.
We like that Tom's the likable one on the show. So,
yeah.
Add the fandom to the Packers. But all right, Jeremy, you want to take us out?
Yeah. So, folks, that'll do it here. We thank again Five for coming on, and we've had the guests come on. We've had Tom. We've had Shree come on. We've had Paul Farrington. We've had Aaron Nagler come on. This season, folks, we have definitely dedicated to having more guests on, which we have almost had a guest every single week. So we appreciate everyone tuning in. So make sure to follow us on the Twitter page, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and make sure to watch our videos both live and when we post videos as well, folks. So make sure to tune into that. And we might be here next week, folks, depending on, because of Thanksgiving week's coming up soon. So we will see if we'll be back here. And yes, we'll be having a birthday alert on mine for next Tuesday, folks, because I'm better than LeBron and MJ because I turned 23 as the new guy.
Happy birthday.
Congratulations.
And shout out to 5 Points. If you're watching, make sure to give him a follow, subscribe on YouTube. Thanks for coming on again.
Yep, and beat Scooter and the subscriber counts that we're hoping for.
Yeah.
There we go.
That's a tough